Telecommunications, satellite TV, GPS, technologies that are all enabled by space and used by billions of us around the world. While governments have been the primary backers of space projects over the last decade, it's now private organisations playing an important role. So is there gold to be had out there in that universe? Is there anything we won't pastiche on this programme? I'm surprised they haven't given me a lightsaber to hold while I do my next interview, because we're going to go live to Necker Island in the Caribbean, where I'm joined by Sir Richard Branson. Great to talk to you. Thank you very much. And you, of course, have been at the forefront of saying space can be commercialised.
Space will be commercialised, and I think it should be commercialised because governments have not been interested in you or me or the average person in the street who would love to go to space being able to go to space. Governments are not particularly interested in building aircraft that can cross continents at a fraction of the speed that they currently cross continents, and governments are not that interested in satellite technology and trying to make sure that the price of telephones and internet access and Wi-Fi access comes down dramatically and is reached by millions of people who currently don't have it. So it certainly should be commercialized, and that's exactly what the likes of Virgin Galactic and Elon Musk are doing.
And you know, you look at your business career and you have been a genius at sort of tapping into what the public mood is and what it wants. I just want to know what level of interest you have had for, you know, your Virgin Galactica project.
Massive interest. I mean, you know, we've already got 700 people who've signed up to go into space, and that's at quite a high price. I mean, massively less than it would cost them to go up on a Russian spaceship, which would be about $50 million. We brought it down to $250,000, and we will bring it down more as in the years to come. So, you know, most people, you know, would love it if they could afford it, to be able to go to space, and the initial pioneers who are flying on Virgin will enable us to get the price down in the years to come, so that many people watching this program will have a chance to go to space one day.
I look at the way you've marketed your airlines, and it's fun, and there's a great atmosphere on board, and you've got these great clubhouses at the airports, all the rest of it. But isn't actually flying into space going to be a massively uncomfortable experience? You may get a great view out the window, but by and large, it's not going to be a kind of, you know, oh, look, we can stand at the bar and have a glass of champagne.
It's not going to be for the weakest of us, but there is still going to be, I would say, 9 out of 10 people on Earth who would be capable of going to space if they wanted to. They'll have the ride of a lifetime. They will be able to look out of the windows and marvel at this beautiful Earth. They will be able to, you know, to float around in the sky, which will be a remarkable thing to be able to do. They'll be able to experience things they'll never have a chance to experience in their lifetime back here on Earth. And they will be the pioneers which will enable the likes of Virgin Galactic to invest in point-to-point air travel. I mean, you know, we're building spaceships with wings. Nobody else is doing that. The reason we're building spaceships with wings is we want them to get bigger and bigger, and we want one day to be able to go from London to Australia in an hour or a little bit over an hour by putting people into orbit and then you know, traveling at 18,000 miles an hour and then popping back out again once we've reached Australia. And you know, it sounds like space fantasy. It sort of is, but we're going to try to make it become a reality.
Yeah, I said you were on Necker Island. You haven't had too much sun. I mean, this is reality, isn't it?
Look, I like to dream big, and we've got 350 magnificent engineers and technicians who will try to make those dreams become reality. Now, we may fall flat on our face, but I don't think we will. I mean, our space program is definitely going to happen this year. I'm definitely going to go up this year. I'm sorry, this year. I mean, we're already at the end of the year, early next year, and that will be the start of a whole new space era. And I think there were quite a lot of people who doubted we'd ever get to that. We are on the verge of doing that. And then I think a lot of these other things are going to be possible. I mean, arrays of satellites, which will transform what goes on back here on Earth. And then, point-to-point travel, hotels in space. We're keeping dreaming, and we'll try to make those dreams a reality.
Richard Branson, very, very good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed for being with us. So, a fascinating glimpse there of what Virgin Galactic are trying to do. Well, let's discuss this a little more. In our lead studio, Stuart Martin from Satellite Applications Catapult, a company that's looking to energise the new space sector in the UK. And with me here in the studio, Chad Anderson from Space Angels Network. And they filter out the best space business plans and put them in front of investors. Chad, let me come to you first of all. What we heard from Richard Branson, I mean, with it as ever, there was a kind of, there's a core reality that some of these things are going to happen. And then there's aspiration.
Yep.
How much of a gap is there between reality and aspiration now?
Well, it's important to dream big, I think. And when you're talking about space, I think everyone is dreaming big. The important thing to keep in mind when we're talking about hardware companies here, and a lot of investors to date have gotten comfortable with investing in software companies. These are hardware companies, and when you're talking about doing things in space, you're talking about a little bit longer timeline than most investors have been used to typically. We might be talking about 10 years, we might be talking about 20 years, but the important thing to keep in mind is, as an entrepreneur, is to figure out ways to make money now, figure out how to make money along the way, how to reach milestones, and create some revenue for yourself to keep yourself going.
Because on one level, the launch of this satellite yesterday is, so what? It's another satellite going up. But this is a private sector taking charge of the operation. It wasn't, It wasn't dependent on NASA or the Russians to go there.
It was a private sector rocket taking a private sector satellite. So I think that might be the first time that that's ever happened.
We're seeing that kind of blast off now on our screens. And just how much, I mean, presumably you needed vast amounts of capital to be raised to do something like that.
Right. Well, the idea is, I
I just wonder how long, what is the timescale for the investors to get a return on their capital?
Well, you can do it in a reasonable time frame, I think. I think 5 to 10 years is reasonable. I think that you see a couple of companies that are getting a lot of attention right now, and you're talking about Virgin Galactic and SpaceX, and these have big backers behind them, but there's other companies that have been making, that have gotten investment capital and are building rocket planes as well. You've got X-Core Aerospace, you've got NanoRacks, for example. These are both companies that have found ways to turn their long vision idea into reality by making money along the way.
OK, well, let's go to our lead studio and speak to Stuart Martin now. Stuart, I just wonder kind of what you're looking to do and whether you're finding it difficult to raise money for the sort of projects you want to engage in.
OK, thank you. Well, perhaps if I could just comment on the launch of the SpaceX rocket yesterday. I think the interesting thing about that is that that is a company that came out of a realization within NASA that they found themselves operating a launch system and a people transfer system that was really had its heritage in 30-year-old technology, and that wasn't really what the NASA, the space agency, was set up to do. They were supposed to advance science and advance new technologies. So they recognized at that point that this was the time to hand over responsibility for the routine operations to the commercial companies. And they came up with the Space Act, and that has prompted a whole new set of companies to come into this arena and operate space on a new basis. And we're seeing that transition happen all over the world, where the state agencies are stepping back from space technology and letting the commercial companies come through and take advantage of the developments that have happened over the last 50 years and really allow that technology to develop to its full potential.
I realise this next question may make me sound like a psychiatrist rather than a journalist, but what is your dream?
My dream? Well, here in the UK, we've set out a dream of creating a £40 billion sector within 20 years on the commercialisation of space. We've seen this trend happening over the last 10 years where the fastest growing part of the space sector is the commercial sector. So if you look at, right now we have a $200 billion global sector in space, 3/4 of which is run by the state programs, but that is diminishing really quickly and the commercial sector is growing really fast. And so the vision is that in 20 years' time, the 45% of that, what will then be a £400 billion sector, $600 billion sector, will be commercial, and the UK will have a significant slice of that market.
Okay, and Chad, let me come to you finally and say that, what obviously is going to grab headlines next year is if Virgin Galactic takes off and people go into space kind of and they're fee-paying customers and it's commercial. What are the other applications that we should be looking at that may not grab the headlines, but actually from an investment point of view and for the, developing, monetizing space will be equally significant, if not more so?
Well, what they're also doing, besides just tourists, is scientific payloads as well, which shouldn't be overlooked, because I think that that's going to be a big part of their revenue stream, and into the future it might be the majority of the revenue stream. But the interesting thing, I think, in space is, just like any other industry, is the services. So it's what makes it tick. It's the suits that people wear. It's garbage collection, to use an analogy here on Earth. It's milk delivery in the 50s. It's, these types of things. So it's the things that that produce parts and provide services for the space sector as a whole. I
tell you what, I think Richard Branson is still listening. Do you fancy any of those yourself, Richard?
Well, we'd love to maybe, help clear up some of the old rubbish that's in space one day. We'd love to, maybe mine asteroids. We put a little bit of money into research into that. Maybe one day mining helium-3 off the moon. Who's to know? I mean, there's lots and lots of incredible things out there to be done. And once you've got going, then moving from one step on to the next, will happen, and we'll see how many years it takes.
Fantastic. Richard Branson, thank you so much for being with us. Stuart Martin in Leeds and Chad Anderson in the studio. It was really great to have you all on that subject. Stay with us.